commented. So, not a good sign actually. Others even don't write, and if they want soul who is making so much of effort, don't even appreciate. So these four sampradayas, they are called as the four ropes. This samsara, or this material world, is compared to a deep dark well in which everyone is pushed inside. And if anyone is pushed inside a deep dark well, what will be the outcome, Kana? If we are pushed in a deep dark well, what is the outcome?
Prabhuji, you will be terrified.
Yeah, you will be terrified and you will drown. And will be drowned. So these, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that these four bona fide disciplic succession are compared to the four ropes. And that is why we sing every day, Sansara Dava Nalaleedha Roka. Antranaya Karuna Ghana Ghanato. So Sansara is compared both to a Davanal, which is like the forest of burning fire, and is also compared to the ocean. So if one is inside the dark well, how he can be rescued? If someone gives him a hand, catches his hand and pulls him out of the well. So these are like four ropes. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has given a book on these four acharyas. Yesterday I was trying to find out, I couldn't find out. But I know for sure, I have read it in my early days of Krishna consciousness. And when we will go to Mayapur, we will see in the main temple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has established the deity of all the four acharyas. All the four acharyas are established in Sri Chaitanya Math in Mayapur. So they are compared to the four ropes, which are for rescuing the jiva who is within this deep dark well of material existence. And Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments, is the name itself suggests it is Rāmānuja. Anuja means the younger brother. He is the Anuja of Lord Ram. He is the same personality, Ananta Shesha, who serves the Supreme Lord in every rasa, and who also glorifies the Supreme Lord unlimitedly. That same personality, like we were discussing yesterday, that Śrīpāda Madhvacharya, he first appeared as Hanuman. So when Hanuman appeared, also in that Treta Yuga, Lakshmana, Anuja of Rama, Lord Ram, Lakshmana also appeared. So that same Lakshmana is appearing as Ramanuja. He is actually Ramanuja. He is the incarnation of Ananta Shesha, and he is the incarnation of Lakshmana. So he is the crest jewel of all the Vaishnava devotees. Very powerful personality, Lakshmana. And we see the name of Śrīpāda Rāmānuja is mentioned by Srila Prabhupada. If you pick up Bhagavad Gita, obviously in the Bhagavad Gita, in the disciplic succession, the name of Śrīpāda Rāmānuja is not there, because we are not coming in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. We are coming in the Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. But Srila Prabhupada, when he gives the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, he introduces the name of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. Anyone remembers? Where in introduction, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning about Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. Okay, yes, Dolamani.
Krishna Prabhuji, the meaning of the word Sanatan.
Yes.
Which has neither beginning nor end.
Yes. So Prabhupada talks about that the jiva is Sanatana. And the Supreme Lord is also Sanatana. And the abode of the Supreme Lord is also Sanatana. So it is the duty, it is the constitutional position of the Jiva, which is Sanatana, to serve the Supreme Lord, who is the source of all Sanatana. And then to return to the Sanatan Dham. So Prabhupada speaks about the word Sanatana on the authority of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. So these are very confidential acharyas. They are appearing just to fulfill the mission of the Supreme Lord. What is the mission of the Supreme Lord? Is to deliver the pious and annihilate the miscreant. But these personalities are even more merciful. They appear to deliver the pious and also to deliver the miscreants. So, this is, and he appears in 1017. 1017 is almost 1006 years before. Now we are in 2023. So his appearance is almost, we had a centennial celebration of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya in 2017. You know the very famous statue of equality. What is it? In Hyderabad, I think. It was built and it was offered to the entire country as an gratitude of the contribution of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. So Rāmānujācārya is not the first acharya in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, in the Sri Vaishnava lineage. Before him, there has been many more, but he was the prominent acharya, like we see Srila Prabhupada also. Srila Prabhupada is not the first acharya in the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. There has been so many acharyas before him, but he has been the prominent acharya to spread the glories and the message of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in all parts of the world. So similar is the case of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. Before Rāmānujācārya appeared, there were 12 prominent acharyas who had already appeared. So the acharyas, the prominent acharyas in Sri Sampradaya, what are they called? Anyone remembers? We went to Sri Rangam and Tirupati. Like we call acharyas, what the Sri Sampradaya calls? Yeah, who's called? Yeah, Sonika. Okay, they are called alvars. Alvars. And most of them were great saintly kings, not ordinary people. And what was their mission? Their mission was to revive the devotional practice, the path of devotional service to the common man. We know of one of the great alvars, which is Radha Kulashekara. Radha Kulashekara was an alvar. So there were 12 alvars. So amongst the alvars, there was one Nath Muni. There was one Nath Muni. And he is very famous because he presented the Divya Prabandham. Like we have our scriptures, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Nath Muni, he gave Divya Prabandham. These are the divine collections of the poetry and the songs in glorification of the Supreme Lord. It is in Tamil. The theme is devotion and surrender to Krishna, and the same teachings of Nath Muni, this has been spread far across and wide by Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. So Nath Muni had a disciple who was very famous Yamunacārya. Actually, Nath Muni's son was Ishwar Muni and his son was Yamunacārya. And Yamunacārya, because time is very short, he also has very, very interesting life. Yamunacārya, he defeated one very big scholar who was opposing his guru at very young age. He would hardly be 10, even below 10. And he got the kingdom of the then king, the Chola king, as the prize money. So he became the king of half of the kingdom. So he was very much engrossed in expanding his kingdom. So he lost track of the mission of the Supreme Lord. Very dangerous, very, very dangerous. So we learn this life lesson that even stalwarts, big stalwarts, even if they get into this circle of opulence, so they get misdirected or mistracked. So he became Alavandaru, the conqueror. So he had become the king and he lost. So somehow one of the disciples of Nath Muni, he brought back Yamunacharya, reminded him of what was his mission, what is his purpose of coming. And then Yamunacharya, then he propagated the path of bhakti in the Sri Vaishnava Parampara. So at that time in the Sri Vaishnava Parampara, as we went, their headquarters was Srirangam. Because in Srirangam, they have this very beautiful deity of Lord Narayan, who is in Yoga Nidra. And at that time, in 1000 years back, there was very rampant practice of the followers of Shankaracharya. Because Shankaracharya had appeared just before, and he had spread the theory, the doctrine of Monism. And Shankaracharya is no one else than incarnation of Lord Shiva. But he came with a purpose. You see, mainly in the South Indian Brahmanas, most of them, they are followers of Shankaracharya. Why? Because there is a curse. If you see the backdrop, there is a curse that those who are demons, they will appear in Kali Yuga as Brahmanas. So what is the demoniac aspect of these so-called Kali Yuga Brahmanas? That they do not accept the divine form of the Supreme Lord. And they practice and propagate that the Supreme Lord is impersonal. So to liberate everyone from this practice of monoism, the Supreme Lord sent his own younger brother in the form of Rāmānuja. So Rāmānuja appears in 1017 in a place called Śrīpāda. You know, Śrīpāda is very famous now. Anyone knows Śrīpāda? It is famous because of the assassination spot of Rajiv Gandhi. That was the place where Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated by that suicide bomber. So he appears there in a very pious family of a very pious Brahmana. He is a Sarvakritu. Sarvakritu is one who is very expert in performing all kind of fire sacrifices. His father's name is Keshavacharya. And his mother is very pious, Kantimati. So Kantimati and Diptimati are two sisters of one of the great Vaishnava from the Sri Vaishnava line. And so both the sisters got married. Kantimati got married to Keshavacharya and Diptimati also got married. But they were not having any child for many, many years. So from Śrīpāda, every day Keshavacharya, like we saw yesterday, the parents of Madhvacharya. Anyone remembers the name of parents of Madhvacharya? Pradeep Prabhu, what is the name of the father of Madhvacharya and his mother? quickly. Yesterday only we discussed. We have very less time and there is so much. Actually, the life of Rāmānujācārya can be discussed in many, many classes. I remember for the first time when I prepared for Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya in 2017, I was hearing the discourse of His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Swami Maharaj, and Maharaj gave 11 classes in Vrindavan on the life of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. So there is so much of content to share. Come on, speak. Do you remember or you have forgotten? You've taken so much of time.
No.
Oh, you should write. Dipankar, you remember? If you don't write, if you don't even read what others are writing, how will you remember? Pranav?
Forget, Prabhuji.
Forget. Anyway. You will forget even for who is Rāmānujācārya's parents. So anyway, both of them from Śrīpāda, they used to walk to every day go and visit the deity of Shri Radha Parthasarthi. The deity of Radha Parthasarthi. Whenever we go next to Chennai, in Chennai there is a very beautiful deity of Shri Radha Parthasarthi, where the Lord exhibits his big moustache. That is the Divya Desham. The Sri Vaishnavas have 108 Divya Desham. Most of them are in South India. One of the Divya Desham is Radha Parthasarthi in Chennai. So they used to go there and beg the Lord to grace them with a child who would be a pure devotee. And because they were very sincere, so the Lord was very pleased and he restored them a son who was the incarnation of Ananta Shesha. So at the birth of Ramanuja, his name Ramanuja was given by his uncle, his mother's elder brother, whose name is Shaila Purna. And Śrīpāda Shaila Purna, so this is the first Purna. Yesterday we heard what was the initiated name of Madhvacharya? Ganesh? See, Sonika also remembers everything. Although she is doing her job, she is on her job and still hearing and still remembering. Attention is not there. The heart is not there. Very few are hearing with heart. Then only the heart will change. Otherwise, the heart is remaining absorbed. Quickly, Ganesh, you are from Tamil Nadu. You should remember these South Indian names. Mamta is saying Mahapurna, but that is not correct. Quickly. I am asking those whom I can see that they have not noted or they are not knowing. I know who is knowing to some extent and the others who are not knowing.
Harishna Prabhuji.
Pankaj?
Purna Pragya Prabhuji.
Purna Pragya. So there will be many Purnas today. There are at least 5 Purnas. So the first is the Shaila Purna. Shaila Purna had 2 sisters, as I said, Diptimati and Kantimati. So Diptimati's son became Ramanuja. He named the son as Ramanuja. And also her younger sister, Kantimati, also gave birth at the same time. And his son was named as Govinda. And they were staying in Śrīpāda, which is known as the Bhudanpuri. So because his father was a Vedic scholar who was performing all the yagyas and the sacrifices, so from the childhood he was introduced in learning of the Vedic scriptures, learning of Sanskrit language, education of grammar and logic. Ramanuja was very, very exceptional from his childhood. He was very saintly and very silent. Very silent. He was not interested in frivolous plays like the other infants and the child. All the school teachers loved him because of his brilliance in academics. And he was also a Shrutidhar. Whatever he would hear once, he would remember forever. So when his father passed away, so he was very young, and they felt very difficult to continue in Śrīpāda. So they migrated, they came to Kanchipuram. Kanchipuram is a place which is very famous for the deity of Lord Varadaraj. That is a very beautiful deity of Lord Varadaraj. In our next South India Yatra, my aspiration is to visit Kanchipuram also. There are 4 seats of Sri Vaishnava. We visited 2. One is Tirupati and the other is Sri Rangam. We visited them. But there are 2 more. One is Kanchipuram, and anyone knows the 4th one? I mentioned it when we were in the Yatra. Sonika, do you remember? What is the 4th one?
Prabhuji, Mallika.
Yes, very good. See, she put so much of her heart in preparing that Yatra report. So, if you have done the effort, then Krishna will reward you. It is there. It is Mallarkote. It is Mallarkote. That is in Karnataka. So he came to Kanchipuram, and when they were in Kanchipuram, when they settled, so one of the very outstanding feature of all our acharyas is that since their childhood, they have performed very special service to the Lord. And while he was studying there, there was a very learned scholar, although an impersonal scholar, called Yadav Prakash. So Ramanuja was admitted in the school of Yadav Prakash for learning the Vedas. He also had very special, he picked up one service for Lord Varadaraj, that he would go every day and bring water from the river for the service of Lord Varadaraj. So very special service attitude our acharyas display from their very infancy, from their childhood. And while he was bringing water every day for the service of Lord Varadaraj, in the temple of Varadaraj, Raj means one who is the king, Raja. And Vara means blessings or benedictions. So Varadaraj means one who is the king, or one who bestows the best of the benedictions. Very, very merciful deity, very powerful deity. One who awards the best benedictions for his devotees. That is Lord Varadaraj. So while he was coming every day to perform service to Lord Varadaraj, he met another very, very, very exemplary devotee named as Kanchipurna. So Kanchipurna, he was such an exalted devotee of Lord Varadaraj. What he used to do, he used to every day offer wet fans, wet chamar to Varadaraj. As we went, we saw that in South India, mostly it is summer, it is hot, it is humid. So he used to every day dip his fan. You have seen in films, you might have seen that there were very big long handle fans, manual fans, which had long handle, and it on the top it had a big cloth which was stiff. So that cloth was dipped in water, and with that handle, it was swung left and right. So when it was sung, it would give the cooling breeze to the Lord. So Kanchipurna used to every day offer that chamar seva. And he used to come from a very long distance every day. His village is mentioned as Puna Malay village. And every day he used to come and offer this service. And every day, young Ramanuja used to bring the water. And Kanchipurna was so exalted. And Lord Varadaraj had such affection for Kanchipurna, that he would every day speak with Kanchipurna. So any devotee living in Kanchipuram, he wanted to convey something to the Lord, he had one via media. Now what was the via media? The via media was Kanchipurna. He would go and submit to Kanchipurna, and Kanchipurna in turn would submit to Lord Varadaraj when he was offering service. So it is said one day, one priest, he requested Kanchipurna to inquire that after the end of his life, will he be able to go to the Vaikuntham, the place of abode of Lord Vishnu. And when this inquiry was put by Kanchipurna to Lord Varadaraj, so Lord Varadaraj accepted and said yes. So when Kanchipurna heard this, he became a little inquisitive. This is another story. I'm just clubbing it. And yes, Prabhu. So Kanchipurna one day became inquisitive and he inquired from Varadaraj that after the span of my life in this loka, will I also get an opportunity to come to your Vaikuntha loka? And Varadaraj said, I don't know. Varadaraj said, I don't know. Then Kanchipurna inquired that how is it that the Pujari, when he inquired, you said that he will definitely come. But you are giving me such an exalted position to serve you personally. And for me, you are not confirming whether I will be able to come or not. So Varadaraj said, because my Pujari is a devotee of my devotee. And he has been accepted as a devotee of my devotee. So his place is assured. So Varadaraj spoke and Kanchipurna got the message. It is not sufficient to be a devotee of the Lord directly. That is why we see that one of the prayers of Raja Kulashekara Alvar, he says, Tvad Bhritta Bhritta. I'm not remembering that. He says that I want to be recognized not as your devotee, my dear Lord. That is not my aspiration, that I want to become a devotee. But I want to be recognized as a devotee of your devotee's devotee. Then my place is very safe. That's another story then. Kanchipurna left Varadaraj. He left the service of Varadaraj. And he went to Srirangam, I think, yeah. And he served under the guidance of devotee of Lord Ranganath. And one day when the rains came, he was given the service of taking care of the horses. And in the shed house of the horses, one day the fire caught. And he was trying to rescue the horses. And there are a lot of details. And then the horses went to the jungle and he went looking after for the horses. And then the rain came. And that devotee goes in search for Kanchipurna. And he says, where is my Kanchipurna? Have I lost him? And Kanchipurna hears it and he comes back to Varadaraj and says, now your devotee has recognized me as his devotee or servant. So now I am assured that I can come back to you. And Lord Varadaraj confirms. So anyway, so in his infancy, in his childhood, Ramanuja had the opportunity to have association of these two very exalted Vaishnava devotees. And they were both the disciples of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. Who are these two persons? One, of course, is Kanchipurna, and who is the other? Kana? Kana, what happened? You have blocked your ears or what?
Yes, Prabhuji, I have covered. I just took steam, so that's it.
You took what?
I took steam.
Steam. Don't worry. My health is very bad. In fact, I went to the doctor today and I told him, give me the most, effective medication, and he gave me an injection. How? Okay, tell me, who is the other exalted personality whom he got association since his birth? Not hearing. This is the problem. In our body, if we have some little bit of disturbance, very difficult. Which Purna? One is Kanchi Purna. Who is the other Purna? You have not heard.
Shaila Purna, Prabhuji.
Shaila Purna. Yeah, please don't speak before you are asked. I'm making everyone participate by asking. So hear attentively. Just see what association and what kind of Vaishnava opportunity was received by Ramanuja since his birth. Not possible for anyone and everyone. So, but the teacher from where he was receiving knowledge, what was the name of that teacher, Ganesh? Now tell me.
Prabhuji, Yadav Prakash.
It's Yadav Prakash. So Yadav Prakash was the staunch follower of Shankaracharya. And Yadav Prakash used to explain the aphorism of Vedanta based on the commentaries of Shankaracharya. So one day it so happened that the first confrontation of young Ramanuja with his teacher happened when Yadav Prakash, he was explaining that the lotus eyes of the Supreme Lord Vishnu resembles. He gave a explanation to one of the Vedantic verses, which says, Tas yatha kapiyasam pundarik evam akshini. This appears in the Chandognya Upanishad. So kapiyasam, you understand? Asam is to absorb water. And kapiyasam, what is that which by coming out absorbs water? Sun. And kapiyasam is sun. And also when the sun comes, the lotus blooms or blossoms. So he was giving a very, very derogatory explanation of how the eyes, so he says, that tasya yatha kapiyasam pundarika. Pundarika, who is the Lord Vishnu. Evam akshini. Akshini means the eyes. So he was comparing the redness of the eyes of Lord Vishnu with a monkey. And after hearing this, Ramanuja became so disturbed that he was massaging the lotus feet of his teacher, Yadav Prakash, and he could not tolerate this. And tears fell from his eyes by hearing this blasphemy. And that tears fell on the leg of Yadav Prakash, whose leg he was massaging. So Yadav Prakash was taken aback. He said, why are you crying, my child? What has disturbed you so much that you are crying? And Ramanuja said that the explanation that you have given of Lord's lotus eyes is not correct. It is incorrect. And Yadav Prakash was taken aback. How come this child, he is questioning my explanation on the verses? So he said, okay, you explain. And when Ramanuja explained, he explained that the eyes of the Supreme Lord Vishnu is compared to the blossoming of the lotus, which is in the water which opens up. That is why we see that the eyes of the Lord, it is compared to what? It is compared to lotus. Kunti Devi gives the offering. Namo Pankaja Netraya. The Pankaja means that which is blossoming in water. So in this way, he refuted about the first sign of refutation of Yadav Prakash. And Yadav Prakash very early came to know that this child, this Ramanuja, is not an ordinary child, not an ordinary student. He is extraordinary. And in the meanwhile, because the father had passed away, and that was the time of early marriage, he got married. Ramanuja was married in his early age. I think he was at that time 16 years age, to one pious family of the Brahmanas, and his wife was called Rakshambal. Rakshambal. So Yadav Prakash became very envious. He became very insecure from Ramanuja. He could see that Ramanuja had exceptional talent, and he was very expert, and he was a very, very pure heart, a devotee of the Supreme Lord. And at that time, one of the kings of Kanchipuram, their daughter was haunted by a ghost, a Brahma Rakshasa. And because Yadav Prakash was the most expert scholar and teacher, he was invited by the king to redeem the princess, the daughter. And when Yadav Prakash came there, and Yadav Prakash was making an attempt, he was reciting many mantras from the Upanishads, from the Shastras, and trying to drive away the Rakshasa which was inside the princess. So the Rakshasa spoke. He said that, you offender, Yadav Prakash, what can you drive me out? You are condemned. You do not have the purity to even touch me. But amongst your student, there is one Ramanuja. And if Ramanuja comes and places his lotus divine feet on my head, I will immediately leave this princess and I will be delivered. So when that Brahma Rakshasa, you understand what is the concept of Brahma Rakshas? It is that some spirits, that this, what is the spirit doing? Dehino asmin yatha dehi Kaumaram yavanam jara tatha dehantara praptis. That the spirit is transmigrating from one body to another body. So when one leaves one body and the next body is not prepared, he does not receive the gross body. So what he has to do, he has to live in the subtle body. So that is ghost. And Brahma Rakshasa means that he was a Brahmin in his last birth. And he performed some atrocious activities, such heinous activity that he was not entitled to get the next gross body. So what these ghosts do, they catch hold of an existing person and enter into his body. That is how the ghosts, they survive. So this Brahma Rakshasa, when he spoke, the king heard it, all his ministers heard it, and of course Yadav Prakash also heard it. But what could Yadav Prakash do? Immediately the king requested that Ramanuja be brought. And when Ramanuja came, and as per the instruction and the request of the king, he placed both his feet on the head of the princess. Immediately that Brahma Rakshas left. And the princess became normal. So Ramanuja became very, very famous. He was glorified by the king. He was glorified by all the ministers. He was glorified by all the citizens of Kanchipuram and became very famous. And his learning and his explanation, he became more famous than Yadav Prakash. And this is the difference between a Vaishnava and a non-Vaishnava. So if a Vaishnava, if his student becomes more famous, he is most elated, he is most joyful. But Yadav Prakash, he thought that if Ramanuja continues to exist, Yadav Prakash's fame and glory will be finished. So he plotted to kill Ramanuja. And they thought of a plan. With some of his students, they prepared for a yatra. They wanted to go from Kanchipuram to Varanasi for pilgrimage and for Ganga Snan. And the plan was that while they will be taking bath, some of the students, the confidential students of Yadav Prakash who are envious of Ramanuja, they would drown Ramanuja. So in this way, they invited Ramanuja, and in the school of Yadav Prakash, there was this cousin of Ramanuja also with him. What is his name, Kana? Not hearing. Ravindra Rao?
Govind, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for hearing. Govinda. You know, previously in Bhuvaneshwar, Gaur Govind Swami Maharaj used to give class. And Gaur Govind Maharaj used to give class. It used to be very intense class. And Brahmacharis used to sit. And at that time, you know, there used to be paperweight. You have seen paperweight? Now the paperweight is not visible anymore. In offices, there used to be paperweight to keep the papers not flying from the speed of the fan. So Maharaj used to keep the paperweight or some bell. And if he used to ask question and the brahmachari did not answer in the class, he used to pick up that paperweight and smash it. Instead, you cannot come into the class, get out. If you are not here hearing, so what have you come here? For distracting others? And believe me, he used to be very severe. So if there is no fear, there is no inclination also. That is necessary for conditioned soul. So anyway, so this plot was there, but Govind somehow came to know about it. But Ramanuja, see how cool he was, how undisturbed he was. Even if he came to know that his teacher is trying to kill him, still he did not refuse. He went to the pilgrimage with Govind, and when they were reaching Varanasi, somehow Govind persuaded him to return back, because that was the place where they had planned to drown him. So Ramanuja and Govind, they both left the party and they fled from the jungles. And after marching a little ahead, they also both lost their way. So they were not together. And in the dead of the night, young Ramanuja, after running so much for his life, he got exhausted in the way and he fell down. He had not eaten. He was running and he was exhausted. And when he regained consciousness, he saw a young couple in the form of those who were like the Adivasis, who were hunters, husband and wife. And when he woke up, the husband asked this young Ramanuja that it seems that, oh Brahmana boy, you have lost your way. So where you want to go? And Ramanuja never felt any fear. He said, I have to return to Kanchipuram. So the hunter said that we are also going to Kanchipuram. So you be with us in this night, and because it is the dead of night, do not travel, I will arrange a fire. And that fire was there, and the wife of the hunter was also there, and Ramanuja was also there. And when in the next morning, Ramanuja woke up, he found that the hunter was missing, and his wife was also missing, and he was in Kanchipuram. And he was rescued by none other than the Lord Lakshmi Narayan himself. They personally came to bring Ramanuja back to Kanchipuram. And when he returned to Kanchipuram, he did not speak to anyone, neither to his mother nor to his wife, about the plot of Yadav Prakash. But he still continued to attend the classes of Yadav Prakash because he could not accept. So one day, when he was performing his service to Lord Varadaraj, what was his service to Lord Varadaraj? Who will say? Yes, Kana, finally speak.
He would bring water to Lord Varadaraj.
Yeah, he would every day bring water for the service of Lord Varadaraj. Srila Jiva Goswami, he used to every day bring water for Srila Rupa Goswami. That was the kind of menial personal service the Acharyas always did. So one day, a very, very stalwart devotee, the Acharya of the Sri Sampradaya, Yamunacārya, he had come from Srirangam to take darshan of Lord Varadaraj. And for the first time, he saw Ramanuja. And as soon as he saw Ramanuja, his heart was filled with ecstasy. He could see that Ramanuja would be the next Acharya. First sight. Like when Srila Prabhupada met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur at the first sight in 1922, Srila Prabhupada was already selected by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he said that why don't you go and preach the message of Lord Chaitanya to the Western world. But Yamunacārya also came to know that Ramanuja is the student of Yadav Prakash. So he prayed to Lord Varadaraj. Yamunacārya prayed to Lord Varadaraj that Ramanuja be freed from the influence of Yadav Prakash. And it happened the next day that again in the explanation of Yadav Prakash, which was full of blasphemy and errors, Ramanuja presented the right version and Yadav Prakash expelled him. Yadav Prakash said that you are not fit to be in my school. You are refuting the philosophy of Śrīpāda Shankaracharya. So you cannot stay in my school. You better go and open your school. And accepting this curse or blessing from his teacher, Ramanuja started his own school. And he started to teach the Vedic teachings. So in this way, the proficiency of Ramanujacharya spread and he started to accept students. So one of his first students was Dasharati. Dasharati is, and the second student of his was Kuresh. And by that time, when Govind, his cousin, he had been lost, he was in Varanasi and he became a devotee of Lord Shiva. A staunch devotee of Lord Shiva. So later he was also rescued by Ramanuja. So in this way, Ramanuja started to preach the philosophy of Vaishnavism. He started to preach the philosophy of Vaishnavism. And Yamunacārya, who was always desiring to have Ramanuja in Srirangam, he wanted to train Ramanuja as the next Acharya. So he sent one of his, who's Jivana, kindly mute your microphone, please. Okay. So he sent one of his disciples named Mahapurna. Mamta gave the name Mahapurna. So Mahapurna is the third disciple of Yamunacārya who comes in the life of Ramanuja. And Mahapurna comes to Kanchipuram to bring Ramanuja to Yamunacārya. But while they were coming, the Yamunacharya's situation was very grave. He was very old, and it was so that it was very difficult for him to survive. He had already decided to return back to the abode of the Supreme Lord. But his desire, his last desire was to have Ramanuja reinstated as the next Acharya. So Mahapurna comes and he requests Ramanuja to come to Srirangam to have the last audience of Sri Yamunacharya. And how he enchants is very, very important. So Mahapurna comes and he recites some of the poems of Yamunacharya. And that poems were so very mesmerizing that when Ramanuja hears the poem, he comes to Mahapurna and inquires that whose recitation is it? That is Stotramala, which is composition of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. Prabhupada also quotes one of the verses of Yamunacharya. It is there in Bhagavad Gita. Anyone remembers the verses of Yamunacharya? Very, very famous for Brahmacharya. If you study sincerely, you will see. It is there in Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada quotes a couple of times Yamunacharya. This is the homework you find out. Where all the verses, the compositions of Yamunacharya is quoted. Actually, if you are studying Bhagavad Gita, if you really study Bhagavad Gita sincerely, I mean, as Krishna is speaking, yad gyatva na bhuyo anyat gyatavyam avishishyate. That is, and that part of Krishna's proclaim is definitely fulfilled by Srila Prabhupada, because Srila Prabhupada has so profusely quoted in his purports from so many acharyas. But you really have to dive deep to be able to see the contribution of Srila Prabhupada as to how he has included in his purport the purports of all the other acharyas. So when he heard the composition, he said, who is this person who has so beautifully sung the glorification of the Supreme Lord? And Mahapurna says that it is Yamunacharya. And he says that same Yamunacharya wants to meet you. So immediately at the same moment, Ramanuja drops everything and he follows Mahapurna to go back to Srirangam. So Kanchipuram and Srirangam are quite distant. It is more than 150 kilometers. I don't know how much it is. Find out, Ganesh, how much exactly it is. Just find out from your internet.
Around 400 kilometers.
Around 400 kilometers. Okay. So they started, but while till the time when Ramanuja and Mahapurna entered Srirangam, he saw that the city was very still, very quiet. Why? Because Yamunacharya had left. And because Yamunacharya had left, Ramanuja was very, very disturbed, very heartbroken. Same situation we see in the case of our Vaishnava Acharya. Anyone remembers when he enters Vrindavan? I've spoken about that Acharya many times. When he enters into Vrindavan, he comes to hear the news that the two Acharyas have left.
Narottam Das Thakur.
Yes, very good. Yes, Narottam Das Thakur. Because Narottam Das Thakur had come to Vrindavan with a desire to have Rup Raghunathe Pade. He wanted to take shelter of Srila Rup Goswami, Srila Sanatan Goswami. And as he was entering Mathura, he comes to know that both of them has left. So he becomes so heartbroken that he wants to drown himself in Yamuna. But both of them appears and tells him that don't know that Mahaprabhu has left a mission for you. So he becomes so disturbed, Ramanujacharya. Especially he becomes so disturbed and so distressed that he says, I will not see the face of Lord Ranganath. Because Ranganath did not allow me even to have the last darshans of Yamunacharya. So he was not directly initiated by Yamunacharya, Rāmānujācārya. But when he came to the final moment of seeing the remains of Yamunacharya, he noticed that 3 of the fingers, the small fingers of Yamunacharya, were closed. So he asked Mahapurna and other disciples of Yamunacharya that was this always, that these 3 fingers of the right hand were folded of Yamunacharya. So they said, no, we never noticed so. So Rāmānujācārya at that time, at the final rites of Yamunacharya, he took 3 vows. Very young, he was hardly 20 at that time. He took 3 vows. What was the first vow? He said that I will free the people from illusion. Such a big vow he took, to free the people from illusion. How? By spreading the glories of Lord Vishnu throughout the land. And I will myself remain fixed in service of Lord Vishnu. So one of the closed fingers of Yamunacharya opened up. Then he said that I will establish the principle that Lord Vishnu is the highest supreme absolute truth. Krishna says, Matta Partaram Nanyat Kinchid Asti Dhananjaya. So I will give the commentary on Vedanta Sutra to establish that the Supreme Lord is none other than Lord Vishnu. So the second finger of Yamunacharya also opened up. And then he says that the great sage Parashar, who had established the authority of Lord Vishnu in Vishnu Puran, I will name one of my successors in his name to spread the glories of the sage Parashar. Very important. Not only the Lord is to be glorified, but the devotee who glorifies the Lord must be glorified. This is a very important principle. So 2 principles Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted from each of these Vaishnava Acharyas. Yesterday we discussed the 2 principles that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if you see that verse, I was contemplating on that verse which I showed yesterday, that how that all the 4 sampradayas, if you see that verse of Padma Puran, if you closely examine, it says that Shri Brahma Rudra Sanaka Vaishnava Shiti Pavana Chatvaras Kalo Bhavya Hi Utkule Purushottamat. I don't know any one of you deliberated on that meaning of that verse. It says that all the 4 sampradayas, Shri is from Lakshmiji, whose Acharya is Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya, whom we are discussing. Second is Brahma, whose Acharya is Madhvacharya, we discussed yesterday. And Rudra is Vishnu Swami and Nimbarka. So, Chatvaras, so all these 4, Kalau Bhavya, in the age of Kali, Hi Utkule Purushottama. So they will all come together. How and where? He says, is Utkale. Where is Utkal? What is Utkal Kshetra? Is Puri. Jagannath Puri. And who was in Puri? Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how he is merging all the 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas by accepting the 2 principles each from each of the Vaishnava Acharyas. So yesterday we discussed that Madhvacharya accepted 2 principles. Yeah, Priyanka, what were the 2 principles which Lord Chaitanya accepted from Madhvacharya?
inhalation of impersonalism
Yes.
and Vigraha Seva.
Very good. So see, because there was Advaitvad and the philosophy of all other three acharyas, today we are discussing Rāmānujācārya, he is Vishisht Advaita. He did not directly, completely refute Shankaracharya according to time, place and circumstances. But he gave a broader understanding by saying it is Vishisht Advaita. There is oneness, but there is Vishisht. What is Vishisht? That the Supreme Lord is Vishesha. But, so there is oneness also, and there is a difference also. So this was completely propounded by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And from Rāmānujācārya, he accepted two principles. What was the first principle? The first principle was Shuddha Ananya Bhakti. Like Krishna is speaking in Bhagavad Gita. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate. Ananya cheta satatam yo mam smarati nityasha. So what is Ananya Bhakti? Anyone? What is Ananya Bhakti? We have discussed so many times. The entire middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita speak about the Ananya Bhakti. What is Ananya Bhakti? Yes, Ganesh Prabhu?
Prabhuji, without having any material desire, performing annala devotion.
Still very specifically, not specific. Devoid of karma and jnana. Devoid of both karma and jnana. That is Shuddha Bhakti. The sentiment of Shuddha Bhakti was propagated by Srila Rāmānujācārya. That was the first principle Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted, Ananya Bhakti. And the second principle was Bhakta Jana Seva. To perform service to the devotees of the Supreme Lord. Or it is called the Vaishnava Seva. So when these three declarations were made by Rāmānujācārya, all the three fingers of the Yamunacharya's hand were opened up and everyone became overjoyed. That actually, then it was clear to everyone that Rāmānuja is the one who is going to lead the Vaishnava Sampradaya in the future. So everyone requested Rāmānuja to remain in Srirangam and serve. But Rāmānuja did not agree. Because his mission was not to become the Acharya of Srirangam, but his mission was to complete the vows he had given to Yamunacharya. So he comes back to Kanchipuram and he starts on his preaching mission. He wanted to give the Bhashya, the commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Because why the Shankaracharya was very famous? Because Shankaracharya gave the commentary on Vedanta Sutra. And in his commentary, he proved that the Supreme Absolute Truth is impersonal. So the first thing was to refute that. So with his disciple Quresh, he travels to Kashmir. And in Kashmir, there is one matha of Shankaracharya, very famous, Sringeri Math. And there is the only script of Shankaracharya which is preserved there. That is called the Bodhayan Vriti. Sharda Math, sorry, not Sringeri Math, that is Sharda Math. It is 9 o'clock. You want to hear more on Rāmānujācārya? No, it is sufficient. I have just begun. His preaching expeditions are very, very exceptional. How he has revolutionary preached. So you can continue tomorrow. We can have one more class on Rāmānujācārya tomorrow. Today we just had the initial life. So his preaching and his teachings, we can discuss tomorrow. Tomorrow is Ekadashi. Tomorrow you want to have Kirtan or you want to hear on Ramanuja? It's up to you. Quickly, bolo yes, no, क्या करना है?
प्रभुजी hearing करेंगे कल।
बस खाली आप ही के हृदय में हियरिंग करने की इच्छा है, बाकी सब लोग कीर्तन करना चाहते हैं, कुछ नहीं करना
चाहिए।
कुछ सुनना नहीं, कुछ लिखना नहीं है, ट्यून को एंजॉय करना है। कीर्तन कीर्तन ही है सदा हरि। The very important principle, if we hear and glorify the acharyas, Krishna is pleased. But if we try to find our own sense gratification in the practice of devotional service, we don't advance. Okay, so how many wants to hear? Only one or two? Raise your hands. Not everyone. Anyway, there's sufficient strength. I will have to prepare also, and I'm not finding time. Today I could not prepare. Yesterday also I could not prepare the way I wanted to prepare. And I had classes both the days. But somehow I could not. Yesterday was my class in Delhi temple. I could not give. Today was my class in Rohini temple because of my bad health. Both places I could not give. So at least I was looking forward to speak and glorify the acharyas in this forum. So tomorrow we will speak on the preaching expeditions and the teachings of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. So thank you very much. And try to chant. Tomorrow is Ekadashi. Wake up early, sleep early. Why do you have to remain wake up? Why we have to remain wake up after 10? What important business are you doing? Are you running the country? What are you doing? Or you are managing the entire financial burden of the country? What are you doing? After remaining awake at 10, it shows that we are engrossed in the lower mode. Sleep early, wake up early, chant your rounds, good rounds. Chant minimum is 25. And if you can chant more. And tomorrow we will discuss on the preachings and the teachings of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. And we were all very fortunate. We had the very divine darshan of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. Rāmānujācārya is still alive. He is still there. Like yesterday we heard that Madhvacharya, he went to Vyasadeva and he got his commentary. So the deity of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya is live there in Srirangam, and we had very close darshan. We were very fortunate when we went to Srirangam. And I can never ever forget that beautiful divine form of Srila Rāmānujācārya. So prominent. Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we should pray to Rāmānujācārya that on this day of his disappearance, the purpose for which he came is to establish that the Supreme Lord in his form as Krishna or Vishnu is the highest. Our heart also accepts that and worships that form. So then our human form of life can become successful. And Manish Prabhu, you kindly continue your blessings by your write-up. Others can also do that, but it's up to them. Swanika is also trying. She's writing. Don't give up. Keep writing every day. I will not post everyone's write-up. Yeah, because I know our members are very busy. They will not read. Even if they read one, I will be grateful. So I am posting only one or two. But whom I will post, that is up to me. So you please keep writing. And you are not writing to just get the posting. So please keep writing. And please keep praying to these acharyas again and again. You see what the glorious parampara we are coming. That we get so much of opportunity to glorify and hear about the acharyas. Why? Because if we hear and if we glorify, then the heartfelt, sincere desire can come. That yes, I also want to serve. I also want to submit to the Supreme Lord. And that genuine desire, if it manifests from the heart, that even one desire it manifests genuinely, is sufficient to take us back to the abode of the Supreme Lord. Why? Because the Lord is there in the heart. He will accept and he will make ways in our life so that that desire can be fulfilled, can be achieved. Jai Ho, Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya ki Jai. Jai God Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.